You're watching Cover to Cover, our guide to the Sikh and Punjabi books that you need to read. This week, we're not introducing Saffron Salvation by Simarjit Kaur. And the reason for that is, as some of our regular viewers will have already recognized from the title, this is a book that we have reviewed previously. Last summer, in fact, summer of 2019. However, the cover looks quite different, and that's because this is a heavily revised edition, the third edition, in fact, of this great work of fiction titled Saffron Salvation. Now, you can go back through our previous videos on the playlist or just search for it on our YouTube homepage, and you will find the original review to Saffron Salvation that we did that tells you a little bit more about the book itself. And so that begs the question, what are we doing today? Well, in today's Cover to Cover, we wanted to launch a book club to read this most latest edition of that particular work of fiction. And I'm going to explain a little bit more about how that's going to work and why we're doing this at all. So first things first, do make sure you watch the original review we did for Saffron Salvation. It was originally published in 1999, and this is a work of fiction that follows a story of love that has much deeper meaning to it, that takes in both diaspora and the Punjab. And it's all set in and around the year of 1984. And what this particular edition that we're going to be looking at does is basically tell that same exact story, but with much greater detail. And as I said, it's not just a third edition where there have been a few changes. You can tell by this soft-bound edition that I'm holding that it has had a lot added to it. I must say that this third edition makes it slightly easier to read in some ways and slightly more difficult to read in other ways. Now, this book actually was published at the tail end of 2019, so it's been out almost a year now. However, because of lockdown and COVID-19 across the globe, it means that this book has pretty much not landed into the hands of anyone except individuals like yours truly. Now, I managed to get this copy, and it's actually signed by the author herself, whom I was fortunate enough to meet. She reached out to me after seeing the original review. And also I managed to get a whole bunch of these copies shipped in from the Punjab, which is where it first went on sale earlier this year in 2020, before lockdown. Many of us sitting around at home have got a little bit more time on our hands than we used to. And whilst ourselves at Nojwani have not been able to engage in some of the activities and endeavours that we had planned for this year, out in person, meeting people as we do every other year, we decided that this would be a great time to launch the book club. Now, the idea behind the book club is for many of us to go out, purchase this book, and to read it together. Now, I have actually already read this book, but I'm also going to be engaged in that activity. So I'm going to be reading along with the rest of you. If you've never participated in a book club, what you're doing is periodically reading up to a certain page, a certain number of chapters, a certain number of sections, and then getting together to discuss what you've read thus far. Step one, you're going to need a copy of this book. Now, how are you going to get that? There's a few different ways. First, you can buy this book right now from the National Sikh Youth Federation website, nsyf.org.uk. Head over to their shop. You'll be able to pick up a copy of this book immediately. A second space where you will also be able to purchase a copy of this book is the British Organisation of Sikh Students, BOSS UK. Now, they're the organisation that connects together all of the university Sikh societies across the United Kingdom. Whilst the link is not live on their website yet to purchase this book, they are imminently bringing this book to their store. And so if you're a university student, it might be a great way of getting a hold of a copy by hand almost through the Boss Network. A third place where you will be able to grab a copy of this book is from us at Naujwani. Now, we have a very limited number of copies of this book. We went out and we have bought a couple of dozen worth of this book, and we are giving those away for free to anybody who wants to partake in this book club who is a member of Naujwani. Now, you might be thinking, what's a member of Naujwani? Well, we have a membership scheme that we have never officially launched on the Naujwani website. And it hasn't been officially launched because it doesn't really work. And there's a few technical issues as well as major human resource issues in getting our membership scheme fully working, and as a result we've never officially launched it. However, so many of you out there who love the work we do seem to still click over to the shop and press buy and become members, and we have not been able to offer you a service. So although your memberships are due at some point and you will get exactly what you've paid for throughout the duration that you bought for, in the meantime, there's going to be a whole bunch of freebies that we want to start throwing your way. And one of these will be a copy of Saffron Salvation by Simarjit Kaur. What I'm going to be doing is dropping out an email to all of our members. So if you're a member, look out in your email inbox, check your junk mail. Sometimes we end up there. Now, I'm not expecting every member to say, I want a copy. Which is why I've only got a couple of dozen. But if every single member says they want a copy, I have spoken to the publishers and we will be able to get more stock in, particularly for those of you who are members in North America and mainland Europe, because those people, I think more than anybody else, will have trouble getting a hold of copies of this book. People in the Punjab and people here in the United Kingdom will find it quite easy to pick up copies of this book. So once you've got a physical copy of this book, what is next? Well, on the Naujwani website over the coming 10 days, I will be outlining a section of the site dedicated to this book reading club that lists by what dates we expect you to read up to what page or what chapter, and then the means by which we will have a digital virtual conversation about the book. We will make sure that we set up a few different catch-ups, because not everyone is going to be able to make the same time, particularly if we're dealing with people in different time zones. Bringing our whole inaugural book club to a close, we will hope to have a live session available for people to watch virtually on the internet and in person, hopefully by March, if COVID lockdown starts to end and diminish, with the author herself. So hopefully we will have Simarjit Kaur on hand to talk more about this particular work once we finish reading through it, and hopefully a couple of other very, very special guests to talk about fiction itself and how that can help us make sense of the world around us, particularly for those of us who have a vested interest in the Sikh world and the Punjabi community, and specifically the Punjab itself. I'm hoping that some of our regular viewers here on our Naujwani YouTube channel, and particularly for the Cover to Cover series, will be joining us for this book club. I hope the likes of John Warner, Jaskaran Singh, Toor Saab, Jaswin Bindra, The Turbinator, Suk D, Amit Pal Singh, Jay Basi, Navdeep Kaur, and to all the rest of you who are regular viewers. I hope many of you will join us on this endeavor and start to take a look at this wonderful work by Simarjit Kaur, Saffron Salvation. Join us again for another Cover to Cover here on the Naujwani YouTube channel. Click that subscribe button so that you don't miss another one of our introductions to the Sikh and Punjabi books that you need to read.